Dr.N.N. Jain, a living legend who has spent all his
क्या
life
हो गया तुम्हारा ज्वाइन
to
हो गया
educate and enrich the lives of millions of farmers in this region and has been a harbinger of world-class education.
Hello.
Padma Shri, Dr.N.N. imparted to the local, has spent all his life,
हो गया
the
तुम्हारा
Indian at the cost, rich the life education at the local cost to the Indian youth. We embarked
Hello, Dr. Joshi.
on this journey of legal education 5 years ago, and we have come a long way with about 1,000 students in the multiple law streams, like 5 years integrated honors courses, 3 years unitary honors course, and the master's course in the law stream. I had met Justice Mohan Paris only a few months ago, and at that time, we had no clue of what the future had in store. End of December in 2019, across the world, there was never before seen celebrations welcoming the new year 2020. We little knew that it could be one of the most challenging years in the history of humanity. No bombs dropped, no weapons of mass destructions used. We all are locked down with an economic disruption of unprecedented magnitude due to an invisible, unheard enemy lurking in the shadows known as SARS-CoV-19 or the novel coronavirus. I have been an industry practitioner for the last 4 decades and must be honest to my core that I haven't seen such a case earlier. While India is aiming to become a $5 trillion economy with the demographic advantage of having the youngest population on earth and a dynamic market displaying consistent growth over the past 2 decades. COVID-19 is an unprecedented event which might hinder our efforts to achieve our dreams of becoming a $5 trillion economy. The challenges is not at the finance or economic front only, but some humanitarian issues and challenges have far-sighted consequences, which are which we are ill prepared to manage. Our health infrastructure, agriculture support system, labor laws, associated legal systems are not only old, but some sections of these set rules are also obsolete and unproductive. It seems our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji had read my mind and in his speech of last Sunday specifically mentioned laws as one of the 5 pillars that need reforms. In light of this, I see a great future and increasing demand for legal profession. The pandemic, which give rise to great deal of careful drafting of each and every document that we shall see henceforth. I feel it is the time for an overall reset and to reboot the system and processes. The sole intention of our institute is to make highly proficient lawyers. A lawyer may need to defend on either side of any case. Debates are a very suitable practice ground to inculcate the ability and acumen that will be needed to plead in courts of law. The topic chosen by the Institute is apt at the current stage. We all would wish to hear the young debaters bring out their logic both for the motion and against the motion, and may the best one win. With these words, I welcome our former Chief Justice of Sri Lanka, Shri Mohan Paris, and the former Chief Justice of Patna High Court, Shri Justice Iqbal Ahmed Ansari ji, and the faculty and the participants of this at this debate competition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We also have with us Honorable Justice Iqbal Ahmed Ansari, Chairperson, Punjab State Human Rights Commission. He was also the former Chief Justice of Patna High Court. Justice Ansari is known for a combination of law for liberty and passion for justice. To his credit, he has the privilege of being one of the judges in the country having the highest number of reported judgments, which are very often quoted as authorities in judicial proceeding. An orator par excellence and stalwart in the field of law, it is indeed privilege to have you here today, sir, for today's inaugural. I would now request Justice Iqbal Ahmed Ansari, sir, to share his profound knowledge and address the gathering. There is some connectivity issue we believe Ansari sir is facing. We will have the address of Ansari sir a little later. We also have with us Honorable Justice Mohan Paris, former Chief Justice of Sri Lanka. He is an expert in the field of administrative law, commercial law, fundamental laws, and industrial law. He is also an honorary professor of law and deliver his expertise lecture at various international universities. We are very grateful, sir, for your presence in today's function. I would request Honorable Justice Mohan Paris to please address the participant.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
You can. Great. Good morning to each and every one of you. And may I first of all thank Dr. Jain and Dr. Joshi for inviting me to speak at this inaugural ceremony of the Padma Shri Dr.N.N. Jain National Debate Competition. My dear friends, and may I also perhaps ask the indulgence of Dr. Ansari and Dr. Jain and Professor Joshi, who is perhaps the chief architect of all this, to permit me to speak a few words at this inaugural session. My dear students, first of all, may I congratulate you on rising to what I call a challenge. I say to rise to a challenge, Dr. Jain, because we are today shaping our lives to work in an environment which is not usual. It's challenging. It's unsettling. So here we are, our students who are rising to this challenge to respond to COVID in a very, very strong and appropriate way. My dear students, debating sharpens skills. The law is full of language. It has to be spoken. Being articulate, therefore, is what we call in law a sine qua non, something that cannot be compromised upon. The topic today, I can assure you, has the potential to invoke great debate and the best of debating skills. The last thing one needs to worry about is the result of the debate. Who wins and who loses is not what is important. But what is important is that we learn to play the game even in the context of a pandemic. My dear students, let me briefly tell you as to what necessary skills you may wish to develop if you wish to become a good advocate. I'm not too sure about the truth of the perception that it only takes a genius to become a lawyer, although most lawyers would love to believe in it. Most of you would probably go into employment connected with the law. It must be appreciated that English is not the language of the English, but it has today become a universal language, like French, Spanish, and so on and so forth. You will soon discover that the basics of law is language and logic. So an aptitude for language, for skills in talking, is of great advantage. Lord Denning, one of the most celebrated English judges of the 20th century, who was known as the people's judge, whose judicial career spanned over 38 years, once quoted to say, open quotes, "To succeed in the profession of law, you must seek to cultivate a command of language. Words are the lawyer's tools of trade," he said. On the words you use, Lord Denning says, your client's future might depend. The reason why words are so important are because words are the vehicles of thought. And that's what we are teaching you to do. To use words in the context of the text so that they become the vehicles of our thought. My dear friends, you will no doubt appreciate that the legal profession language is used for many users, inclusive, to negotiate. It is used to draft legal documents. It is used to structure arguments and place before a court certain legal propositions. The importance of vocabulary and grammar and the ability to be articulate, therefore, cannot be emphasized more. And Dr. Joshi and Dr. Jain, I must say, I must congratulate the two of you for creating this opportunity for our young minds to sharpen their skills of speech by this debating competition. Now let me get to the topic. Is free medical testing of COVID-19 in India justified? I'm going to not make a long speech about it, but I just want to leave you with a few thoughts that you might debate upon. You all know that private diagnostic laboratories in India had just started testing for COVID-19 when the Supreme Court ordered that all tests be carried out free. Now, the laboratory said that they thought the order would say the rich would pay and the government would pay for the poor. At 4,500 Indian rupees, it was not cheap. But the court did not clarify if and how private laboratories would be reimbursed. Some laboratories, therefore, stopped testing. An anxious, of course, obviously, an anxious federal government petitioned the court to reconsider the matter, and the court graciously did. Now, what does this new order say? And according to this new order, issued on the 13th of April of this year, the government will reimburse private laboratories for testing the 500 million covered by a project for public health insurance for the people. The rest of them would have to pay. Now, but the volte-face or the turnaround, this whole turnaround by the courts gave rise to an important question to debate, in my view. Can India, I'm throwing this open for the debaters to put their mind to, can India scale up testing for COVID-19 if it is not free? If it is not free, how quickly can India be sterile for economic growth? Can it be quick enough to regain its stature as a safe destination for tourism and for investors looking for a safe place for investment? Will the free testing pay off? These are questions, I believe, that looms in the horizon, my dear students, for your consideration. India's number, 15,712 active cases and 507 deaths, are relatively low for a country of 1.35 billion. Many believe this is because it's still testing too little. As of Sunday, there had been 386,791 cases. But scaling up is a challenge. All of this has made testing expensive. It's free at government hospitals and laboratories. And for months, there were only ones permitted for even the only ones that could have tested for corona. But soon, private entities were inducted to support India's overburdened health system. You can ask the question, my dear students, therefore, what is the ultimate policy objective? Isn't it well beyond dealing with a pandemic, I ask? We can't be myopic in this whole thing. Do measures to manage and control an investment or expenditure, such as free testing, that would it return dividends beyond what the eye sees, is my question to you. At the end of all the panic, could we turn round to the global community and particularly the manufacturing industry in East Asia and say India and Sri Lanka perhaps is a safe country to relocate investment? We will be happy to offer you a conducive environment. Come. Isn't the cost of the free testing then a justifiable policy decision? There you are, my dear students. The government kept the price of test at 4,500 at home and 3,500 in a hospital based on the recommendations of an expert committee. The case for free testing. We know that presently tests are carried out only if a doctor advises them to do so. But the long wait at government hospitals and the prohibitive cost at private ones could deter even those with symptoms from showing up in these hospitals. Somebody said that if you want to contain a pandemic, you can't have testing determined by costs. No doubt, undoubtedly so. But is it possible that we look at the scenario well beyond the important advantage of controlling a pandemic and a pandemic alone? That's my question. There are large groups of people just above the poverty line that are also struggling, and there are middle-class workers who have been laid off and can't afford to pay for their families to get tested. So what's the uptake in this? If you really want to push up testing rates across the country, you cannot expect everyone to pay out their pockets. They must be funded by the government, and you will see the government of Vietnam perhaps is just doing exactly the same thing. And what do the scientists say? The scientists say that you cannot contain the virus unless you know who has it. Surely that's not rocket science to understand. So it is your interest to make sure there is universal access. We cannot rely on private charity to free ourselves from an international public health emergency, my dear students. And now with private hospitals in the mix, it's going to be harder for the government to retain control of its testing strategy. Of course, testing would become cheaper as more homegrown kits are approved. As I see, India is also considering pool testing, which involves collecting a large number of samples and testing them in one go. What it means is that if the test is negative, nobody has the virus. But if it is positive, everyone who gave samples has to be tested individually. It's definitely a good way to reduce costs as long as it's done efficiently and smartly. If you can fix the price of raw materials, you can fix the overall price. My dear students, it is likely that the country will if you look at foreign aid, let's look at this, the other angle to this pandemic. There is a school of thought that highlights the role of aid as a foreign policy tool. It has been demonstrated that a number of countries had used aid as a part of campaigns to become a temporary member of the United Nations Security Council. This is neither a new phenomenon nor one practiced by one country. The richest states in the world have used transfers of goods, services, and funds as a means of interacting with other countries. And that while it is hard to pinpoint which goals aid actually achieves, but aid has always been geopolitical and it has had geopolitical ramifications. So foreign aid and loans have been a substantial share of the total government budget of, for example, for a country like Sri Lanka. It is likely that the country, Sri Lanka, will seek assistance from donor nations. Given the economic impact of COVID-19, very few nations are likely to be in a position to assist Sri Lanka. And so far, it's only India and China that has offered a concessionary loan to us. The pandemic has reinforced the links between health, environment, and the economy. But this crisis, my dear students, think about it, demonstrates that governments and individuals are capable of strong and rapid action in the face of an overarching challenge. As India looks to show up its economy, it is worth reflecting on the other systemic actions that are needed to shift towards a more sustainable and resilient economy. And let's look at a few of those options. Number one, can we invest in sustainable infrastructure? Now, when I say that, what I mean is infrastructure investments are an effective way to boost economic activity and create jobs. Now, I'm looking at the good side of this. How do we make maximum use of the pandemic? It has been seen that a stimulus towards green measures rebounded faster than other economies in the Organization for Economic Cooperation, in the OECD. Investments in clean energy, public transport, and so on and so forth. Should India, I ask the question, I throw this question to the debaters, should India take this opportunity to increase support for renewable energy, particularly rooftop solar, through appropriate policies and business models? Decentralized solar power can help spread critical services in remote regions if the upfront capital constraints can be addressed. Number two, can we build the resilience for the most vulnerable in the community? About 90% of our workforce is informally employed, which includes short-term contract workers. This population is extremely vulnerable to economic shocks and needs greater access to formal credit and social safety nets such as insurance and pension schemes. Lastly, it is critically important to expand access to clean water, clean air, and primary health care. Thirdly, can we use fiscal mechanisms for the recovery and resilience to this whole pandemic while promoting low carbon development? The government of India has announced an economic stimulus of Indian rupees 1.7 trillion, which is $24 billion, and is exploring another bailout of Indian rupees 750 billion for micro, small, and medium enterprises, among them for measures to come out of this pandemic. Several sectors like aviation and the auto industry will need support. Fourthly, can we encourage long-term change in behavior? The current crisis has changed patterns of consumption. For example, electricity usage patterns have shifted as people are working from home on more flexible schedules. So there are behavioral changes. Finally, fifthly, can we regulate enabling technologies? Right. It is useful, therefore, to consider, I ask the debaters, that the future may see great employment in the freelance, short-term economy and e-commerce sectors, as well as in new technologies that can help support future response and resilience mechanisms. Therefore, the decisions taken today can provide immediate relief, but also secure a lasting economic recovery, increase community resilience, and ensure a long-term pathway to sustainable development. The question for you then, isn't it then the case that we shouldn't let this opportunity slip away? Isn't free testing then a worthwhile exercise? I'm leaving you with food for thought, my dear students. In my view, with all respectfully, this may present the opportunity to attract investment opportunity for those business entities desirous of leaving vulnerable regions for safer territories such as India and Sri Lanka. Think about it. All this is possible if we ensure that our environment is disease-free. If free medical testing results in a disease-free country, then such policy is surely justified, isn't it? I wish every participant and team, therefore, these are little thoughts that I have left you with. I wish every participant and team an enjoyable discourse in a debate in a virtual environment, right? Which might seem unsettling, but that perhaps is a challenge to all of us, my dear students. We must face this challenge in the confidence that we will succeed. We must face this challenge in the confidence that we must succeed, as our forefathers did in times far more difficult than what we are faced with today. It is my prayer and wish that you will emerge victorious in setting a course through this debate to address a policy that would contribute to good health of the nation, that would gain us the reputation that South Asia is a region of peace and prosperity, and a region in which people can settle down to invest profitably. I wish the participating teams and each one of you a great debate. I can assure you that we are, as someone said, that all of us are in it together. I wish you all luck, and I congratulate Dr. Jain and Dr. Joshi and the faculty for putting in place this debating competition as a remembrance, as perhaps an honor to Padma Shri Dr.N.N. Jain, the founder of this great institution. And I'm confident that this institution, with this kind of policy, will rise to new horizons of legal education and in management. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your insight knowledge of the today's debate competition. We also have with us Honorable Justice Iqbal Ahmed Ansari. He is facing a little internet connection dispute, and if we could just wait for 1 minute for him to rejoin this inaugural ceremony.
I think, Ritu, it will be difficult for Justice Iqbal to continue. He's having serious
Internet problems.
internet issues. So continue with the session.
Fine. With this, we come to an end of this inaugural session. I would request Dr. Anil Bajpai, Chief Operating Officer of Prestige University Project and former Director of KIT School of Management and a veteran from corporate world, to please give a word of thanks on behalf of Prestige Department of Law.
Thank you, Ritu. It is indeed a very, very, what should I say, honorable task, at the same time, an onerous one, to speak after two stalwarts from their fields have delivered what I would call a treatise on today's subjects. Dr. Davis Jain.
Sir, sorry to interrupt. As Justice Iqbal has been able to connect, it would be our pleasure if His Lordship can deliver his keynote. His audio is connecting. and a little patience of ours will enable us to hear him. Sir, we can hear you now.
Justice Ansari, can I speak?
Sir, please, we are happy and we are very thankful that on a such short notice and with such difficulty you have still made it up to enlighten our audience, and thank you so much for being there.
As a matter of fact, I am on the mobile.
Sir.
And for me, it has been an experience dialing it myself. Because so far somebody else had been doing. Anyway, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and our distinguished guests, dear participants. Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Sir, you are audible, sir.
Achha. You see, there was a time when this world was ruled by kings and emperors. They had unlimited powers. But the state which they represented played a very limited role. The, the basic role which the state played was defense of the territory, collection of revenue, and maintenance of law and order, of which judicial system is a very minuscule part. But if you closely examine, you will find whose territory was a king or an emperor defending. He was actually defending his own territory, not the territory of his subject or the people living in the kingdom. Because the bigger his territory or the vaster his territory, more powerful he would have been regarded. Similarly, he had been collecting revenue, not for sharing it with his people or with his subjects, but for enabling him to live and enjoy his life as a king or emperor. The third one was maintenance of law and order. Obviously, even a king cannot live peacefully if there is disturbance in the society. So he was maintaining law and order also in his selfish interest. So in all, you will find that the state those days existed in the selfish interest of the ruler. With the fall of kingship, there was a rise of communism and democracy. Which one was good, which one is bad? That's not the matter of discussion, because today we have both democracy and also communism. One common thread which passed through both this system was that both these systems declared themselves to be a welfare state. The difference between the state which was there during the time of the kings and emperors and a welfare state is that in welfare state exists for the welfare of the people of the society. And it means that the state shares its means with the people of the society, its assets with the people of the society, because the liability of the state will be the liability of the society. Now, if you, in this kind of a scenario, when you have to, when we come to COVID-19 and we are seeing what is happening, and the question arises as to whether the state should pay for the treatment, medical treatment of the persons affected by COVID-19, you will realize that there is a class of people who can afford the treatment and there is a class of people who cannot afford treatment. So there comes the judicious part of the state. The state ideally ought to maintain the medical expenses of all, whether rich or poor. But in a country like ours, which is still a growing economy, it is necessary that the government is given as little burden as possible. So this financial burden which is put on the government has to be shared by the people who have the means to share. So that way we will be able to reach greater number of people affected by COVID-19. And that's ideally the situation here. Since the subject is, should the people should the treatment be made available free, is the subject of debate. I would not like to say on this. I will only say this much, that as far as the state is concerned, it has to rationalize its means, and the planning which it has to do has to ensure that nobody goes without treatment, because there's no point in having economic upliftment without a healthier society. And a healthier society is not possible until and unless we have provided for a treatment of people affected by COVID-19. I am thankful to the organizers for calling me. Because of paucity of time, I have joined very, very late. I know I'm conscious of the fact that I must not be taking much time. I will therefore conclude with thanks to every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are indeed very grateful that you could spare some of your valuable time and be with us in this inaugural function. I would request Dr. Anil Vajpayee, sir, to please continue with his vote of thanks.
Thank you, Ritu. And like I was saying before, we were joined by Honorable Justice Iqbal Ahmed Ansari, sir. It is a very difficult thing to speak after three stalwarts, three people who have excelled in their walks of life, who've done so well and reached the pinnacle of success. Uh, I must thank initially Dr. Davis Jain, who has been the luminary in the areas that he has touched. He is like the Midas, who has been looking at the soya and turned it into gold from grain. And he also turned education for and all this, of course, with the blessings of Dr.N.N. Jain, his reputed and exalted father. The experience that he shared and something that he drew for the students of law for the future, in sense that there would be a lot of opportunity for all students who are undertaking law education here on. The COVID-19 has, in its own right, presented with an opportunity. I thank Honorable Justice Mohan Paris, who we met a little while ago, a few months back, when he had visited Indore and was part of the moot court activity. I'm actually amused at the same time, vastly learned from his great experience and his eloquent articulation of the very simple thing called language. He says English is not English, or rather, English is not a language of the English. Fantastic. He says words are your tool of trade and your vehicles of thoughts. Students, please keep this in mind. These are golden words that have come from a luminary from across the Ram Setu. I thank Dr. Justice Mohan Paris for his sparing of this time right in the middle of the COVID pandemic that's going on, and of course the wisdom that you have given and the direction that you have given for our country would stand in very good stead for us to follow in the terms of the 5-point or 6-point agenda that you've lifted in terms of energy, air, water, health, carbon footprints, doing the MSME good service, and a change in behavior as we are noticing now. I thank Justice Iqbal Ahmed Ansari. Of course, he was plagued with the technical glitches as they happen to be. And it is amazing that he post his all his life is learning new technologies, and he has done this for the first time. And I congratulate Ansari ji for having mastered the art of the Zoom technology now, and shared with us his vision and his succinct but very should I say very apt theory of the state. The state, which started with the king, came down to democracy and communism, but wherever there was something called the welfare state. And he wishes, and this is something that will of course give food for thought to all the participants, where he says that a country like ours has to take a balance between providing for those who cannot afford from those who can afford. And with these words, I also thank the entire teams that are participating in the debate, which will be now here on, going on, and it will last till the end. And may the best people win. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir. With this, we officially announce the commencement of the national debate competition. And on behalf of Department of Law, Prestige Institute of Management and Research, Indore, we thank all the panelists who had come and spared their valuable time for this inaugural. Thank you once again. For the participants, there is this one news. Your session would be starting exactly sharp at 11 a.m. You have been provided with the link yesterday only. In case you're facing any problem, please do contact us or any of the official committee members, and we will get back and help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining. We
Thank
are
you.
officially closing the inaugural ceremony and proceeding ahead with the competition. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.